This was committee deadline week for lawmakers, and I talked to eCapitol News Director Sean Ashley about what else happened at the Capitol. Sean, filing for office started on Wednesday with a rush.
Yes, it did. In fact, on Wednesday, there was a record number of candidates who filed. Thursday, we saw fewer candidates file than in years past. But what we see is that voters are going to have a lot of choices to make come June when the primary takes place. There are a significant number of candidates on the Republican side of the ballot in both Senate races. Governor Mary Fallin finds herself challenged by a Republican. And in a number of other races, we see in both parties a significant number of candidates. So there's going to be a lot of decision making going on in June when the primary takes place, in the runoff primary in August, and then, of course, in the general election in November.
The American Indian Cultural Center and Museum moved forward in the House Appropriation and Budget Committee, but it still faces an uncertain future on the House floor. Tell us about that.
That's right. There was a robust debate in the House Appropriations and Budget Committee, and the bill passed. Now, normally we would say these things are headed to the floor, but House Speaker Jeff Hickman has said he needs to see 51 votes among the 72-member Republican caucus before he will put that bill on the floor. On speaking to reporters on Thursday, Speaker Hickman said that this was not unusual, that they often looked at bills, controversial bills, and that at least enough votes to pass by Republicans alone were necessary. So it's yet to be seen whether that bill will be heard by April 24th, the deadline for it to be heard in the House.
And the money comes from that, at least the state portion of the money, from the Unclaimed Property Fund.
That's right. And what Speaker Hickman seemed to be indicating when he talked to reporters was that members of his caucus would like to see that money used in the budget as it has been in years past.
What is the latest on the budget?
Well, they're still trying to get to budget negotiations, I believe. Both Speaker Hickman and Senate President Pro Tem Brian Bigman indicated on Thursday that each side was sort of putting together its priorities and where it wanted to go when they began talking between themselves and with the governor's office on what's going to happen with the budget. We're into the middle of April. Last year, you may recall, a budget agreement was reached in early May. It seems that's not going to be the case this year, and it may be mid or late May before we finally see a budget agreement. At this point, they're talking about very different ideas. The Senate supporting the American Indian Cultural Museum, funding out of the Unclaimed Property Fund. The House talking about a significant amount of money, around $150 million for common education. They're far apart at this point, and they haven't really put their priorities on paper.
This was a committee deadline week. What is the role of committees and the significance of this deadline week that we had just this last week?
Well, committees do a couple of things. They're an opportunity for members to fix their bills. Often we see bills amended. We see them rewritten with committee substitutes where any problems throughout the course of the bill are fixed and tightened up. And committees, too, can serve as a barometer for how the whole floor or of each chamber may react to a particular piece of legislation. But at the same time, like with the American Cultural Center proposal, they're not the final word. The bills do have to be heard on the floor, and sometimes even getting there can be a barrier. When they do get on the floor, that barometer that may have come out of committee may not have been accurate. There may be more opposition or support for a piece of legislation when it gets on the floor, and that's the final act. We have to see it there.
What do you expect for next week?
Through much of the remainder of the legislative session, all the work will be on the floor, passing bills for third reading by April 24th, and then the final versions of bills through the end of May.
Sean Ashley, new eCapitol News Director, thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome.